I'm going to get started. Today, I am leading the session. It's going to be recorded, so make sure you mute your audio while I'm presenting. And if you could save your questions till the end, that would be great. We can use the chat function or the raise hand function if you want to speak directly to the group. It is, and I would like it to be interactive and engaging. So after I present, the goal is to have a discussion on the content and then how it relates to your business idea, organization. So feel free to add the questions and comments, like I said, to the chat. And then it is a social media friendly workshop. Be sure to tag the Von Allman Center for Entrepreneurship at UK Entrepreneur and also me at Jeni Hauser. And I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. Okay, let me see you guys. And can I get a thumbs up if you can see the PowerPoint? Perfect, thank you. Okay, once again, thank you all for your time and attention today while I present to you. My name is, Jeni Hauser. These are all the ways you can connect with me. I love building community around entrepreneurship, so I hope to see you guys out there. A little bit more about me. I'm the founder and consultant at the EI District. It's the Entrepreneurship and Innovation District. It's a boutique consulting company where we focus on entrepreneurship education and business creation. We've worked with startups, small businesses, investors, and policymakers in the US, Ireland, Oman, and other international markets. And I just returned home a few months ago, spent a year and a half abroad, earned my master's degree from Trinity College Dublin, where I met Lorraine. And that's where I focus on a global perspective of entrepreneurship ecosystems, the process, and outreach education. But I am 100% passionate about entrepreneurship and also the role that it plays in economic development and increasing access to opportunity. I'm an advocate for increased diversity in entrepreneurship and development of new businesses. My focus is to empower people to create their own lane of opportunity, and I believe entrepreneurship is a great equalizer, and that's why I developed this workshop series for you. And thanks again to Base. Because of them, these workshops were offered to you at free. So what's keeping me busy right now is Danny Dollar Academy. It's a program focused on entrepreneurship, personal finance, and economics for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And what's exciting about this program is after the young students finish reading the book and they go through the program, they actually form a business. And then the Econ Games is a data analytics, research, and economics program. And I'm getting to work with the University of Kentucky, ISFI, and Northern Kentucky University Center for Economic Education and the Federal Reserve Bank. But right now it's exciting because we're working really hard to push out the summer data camp. So today we are going to talk about something that excites me. I'm passionate about this, and it's something that we do with entities that need to redefine or maybe figure out who they really are. There's a lot of emphasis on developing a business plan, but before you write a business plan, you need to know what your business and business model is. And many organizations cannot define their business model. And when I talk about organizations, I'm not just talking about businesses here. I'm talking about individuals, entrepreneurs, government, policymakers, teams, and startups. And I'm a big believer that if more people focus on their business model, they would be able to perform better. Whether you're a celebrity brand, a brewery, a corporation, a university, or faculty, or director, you need to define your business model canvas. So when you use this resource, you will perform at a higher level. We began offering it because a lot of business owners work in their business and they're consumed with the day-to-day issues of running a business. So they found that they needed more time to spend on strategy and business model innovation. The business model canvas is a powerful tool that works systematically through the 9 building blocks of a business, and it structures the business model in a coherent manner. The business model canvas allows you to better articulate all the different segments of your business model coherently, making your business idea clear to yourself, your team, and future investors. So the EI district can curate a 1-day, 3-day, or 5-day business model canvas workshop. We can work with your organization, but it's all dependent on how deep you want to dive into your business. Today is going to be a quick sprint version of that. So like I said earlier, I'm going to share the business model canvas with you. We'll work through some of the process, give some examples I think you'll be familiar with, and then about 30 minutes or so of me talking. We'll move to the part that is the value added for you, and that is the discussion after. So I want to hear from you about how your business and your business idea relates to the business model canvas. So the business model canvas has 3 components: the creation, the delivery, and the capture. So when we talk about this, think about your own organization or your business idea, and then let us know how relevant it is through the business model canvas. So first, we'll start with creation. And as a business, you have to think about creation. And it starts with asking, who is your customer, the customer segment block. This entire block, just a second, guys, sorry. There it goes. It's focused on the customer segment block. And you would be surprised how many businesses and entrepreneurs don't really know who their customer is, or they think it's an entirely different segment than what they thought about. Most people cannot define their customer segments because defining your customer segment is actually a very complicated process, especially if you've never owned a business before. You don't really know who's going to utilize your service or buy your product. And some of the most established businesses add or delete multiple customer segments. So one that comes to mind is Kroger. They have multiple customer segments. They needed to make a change. If you don't know, Kroger maintains markets in 35 states here in the US. It's a nationwide market. It's ranked on the Fortune 500, also headquartered where I grew up in Cincinnati. Kroger uses data analysis to define their customer segment. They do it so well that they've segmented their stores on a neighborhood level, and no 2 Krogers look the same. But even after I told you all of this, even Kroger needed to make a customer segment change. They noticed from their research that some of these stores, customers are coming in, picking up these ready-made, quick pickup meals. They realized the need for those customers. They needed somewhere to consume those meals, so they added in-store dining. So define who your customer segment is, but be careful not to get too attached because you could add or delete as you move along the canvas or scale your business. So once we go through the 8 remaining blocks, you may think, yes, I want to stick with this customer segment, or I need to make a change because maybe the profits are higher somewhere else. Okay, so once you define your customer segment, you have to ask yourself, what are you providing for your customers? This may sound backwards because yes, many people already have the product or service, and then they try to figure out who they're selling to. Value propositions always exist in relation to the customer segment. And here, what I like to do is focus on the customer and their needs and then figure out a way to help them. So if what you're providing does not meet their needs, then there's a mismatch. You need a value proposition for the customer segment that you're interested in. But remember, you can also have multiple customer segments. So to create your value proposition, you really need to know your customers. You need to know their pains and what they can gain from interacting with you. And just because you provide a service does not mean that you know the true customer pains. So deep diving into this requires data analysis, researching trends, and market analysis. So to truly perform well, you need to know what your value proposition is. And in short, the value proposition answers one question: what compels customers to buy from us? This is an example of a great value proposition. The Econ Games is an innovation or an education innovation startup I work on. It's founded by 2 academics, has several customer segments, and designed their value propositions to serve all the segments. You always need a corresponding value proposition with each customer segment. Okay, so now you know your value proposition, you know your customer segments. It's important to ask, how are you going to deliver your product or service the customer segment? When you define your channels, it's important to ask some questions like, what is your relationship with your customer segment? How do you communicate with them? And how do they interact with your product or service? So the customer relationship is a strategy where you want them continuously to be interacting with you. So you have to know where they come from before they arrive to you and where they go after. Okay, this guy, George Clooney. I think most people here are familiar with George Clooney, but Nespresso defined their customer segment as the George Clooney of coffee. And if you know George Clooney, he's sophisticated and charismatic and elegant. And that's what Nespresso wanted people to think about when they thought about their value proposition. That's the customer persona they wanted you to resonate with. So now that they had the customer persona, they decided to sell coffee, but not just any coffee, the best coffee at your convenience. So you could go out and find really good coffee, but they're looking for customers that need convenience, they need elegance, they need sophistication. So the channels they use are ordering through mail, the website, and retailers. Nespresso uses these channels to create this personalized experience in creating a relationship with the customer. When you go to the retail store, you get your own machine and you purchase the capsules, and the look and the feel all meet the expectation of what the value proposition is. The retail store that I put here in the slide is the one in Dublin. And I can remember going there and picking up my bag and then picking out each little sleeve of capsules that I wanted. And it just felt so good picking out my own sophisticated coffee. And then once I left the store, I received email notifications. I get part of this loyalty program. I would get these promotions and information on flavors, and everything is elegant and exquisite and sophisticated. I can remember when they told me if you reach like 2,000 capsules, you get a sleeve for free or something. And every time I went in there, I tried to just get to that 2,000. It was kind of crazy. But Nespresso reinforces this by using communication methods to keep the relationship with their customers. Before you know it, like me, they've put you in this loyalty loop and you're never ever going to leave Nespresso. In fact, when I moved back to the States, I had to get my Nespresso machine. So based on my experience working with my clients, they find that customer relationships are challenged. Businesses focus more on what happens when the customer arrives to them, but not enough focus on how they get there, and then what happens after the customer purchases or maybe not purchase from you. This applies to product markets, but more importantly, service markets. When business owners understand the customer journey, then they can direct spending and messaging to the touch points of maximum influence. And what this means is that you stand a much greater chance of reaching customers in the right place at the right time with the right message. Instead of focusing on how to allocate spending across all the channels, a better strategy is to target stages in the customer decision and ultimately gain customer loyalty. So let's look at an example here. When customers have decided to make a purchase, they start the journey first with brand awareness, and they're thinking of considering an initial set of brands. During this evaluation, many of these brands enter and exit the journey. Eventually, the customer will select a brand, and in this case, it's Nespresso. But what happens after the process is very important. The customer is still evaluating you. It's important to have a post-purchase experience to create customer loyalty. This is where Nespresso uses their ads, social media, loyalty programs, and emails. And most important part of the customer journey is when the customer transitions to the loyalty loop. This is the ultimate goal of the customer repurchasing without considering other brands. So we got done with the first side of the business model canvas. Now we can see Nespresso's customers who want the elegance and sophistication and convenience. The value proposition is creating the best coffee, best machines, best experience for the customers. How they're delivering that value through mixed channels and the kind of relationship they have with the customers is very personalized, it's very special. You feel like you're just George Clooney of coffee. Okay, so the next component is how are we actually delivering that creation side? To do this, you need to define your key partners, key activities, and key resources. So key partnerships, that's your network of partners and suppliers that leverage your business model and make it work. Nespresso realized that they needed to control the quality of coffee, so they built partnerships with coffee growers. They didn't just go to the market and buy any coffee. They went directly to the coffee farmers because they wanted to maintain the quality. And they knew that delivering their value proposition to their customers is way too important, and they need to know that this coffee is premium. Nespresso needed relationships with manufacturers to build the machines. If you've ever touched a Nespresso machine, you know it's a solid piece of equipment. They could easily do it at a cheaper price point, but they know they would lose that value proposition. They could use other metal, other plastic and accessories, but it just wouldn't be the same machine. You know, when you hear that sound of an espresso machine, it's an espresso machine. The look, the sound, the feel, the smell, the taste, they're all embedded in their value proposition. So for example, if you didn't hear the machine doing the work of making the high quality coffee, you wouldn't be convinced that you're getting that high quality coffee. So for Nespresso, coffee farmers and manufacturers are essential parts of their key partners and delivering the value proposition. So some other examples of key partnerships is how Disney partnered with Morningstar to produce these plant-based vegan, I call them chicky nuggies. They were designed specifically for kids, and I actually consume them as well. Also, Stripe partnered with Salesforce, the customer relationship management giant platform Salesforce. Stripe was actually founded by two Irish co-founders, and it will now process payments for a new Salesforce service. So two products and brands partnering with one another to deliver another value proposition. Okay, we'll shift and identify what key resources are. So what are the most important things you need to have or acquire in order for your business model to work? Here we would put things like patents, office space, your capital, infrastructure, the things your business needs to make the business model go. And one that comes to mind in the Nespresso is patents were really important, because if Nespresso could not protect the capsule and the look of the machine, it would lose its value proposition to the customers. So Nespresso knew that they needed to spend money on protecting the intellectual property, which is the design of the capsules, the machinery, and the brand. So make sure you are protecting your value proposition through your key resources. So another example would be Amazon. And the one main key resource is the technological infrastructure. It needs to be broad and secure in order to keep the whole business model going. Some of their other key resources would be physical resources like space, warehouse, their supply chain, infrastructure, automation, and we could probably go on and on all day about Amazon. Okay, key activities are going to be those things that keep the wheels rolling. Key activities keep the business going to make sure that you're delivering the value proposition and maintaining on growing your customer segment. These are the most important things that a business needs to be able to perform in order for your model to work. So do you need marketing campaigns? Do you need to build a website? Do you need to have sponsorships or distribution? The key activities are the strategic actions your team must undertake to achieve your value proposition. So how are you keeping the business going in today's world? This is probably a time, and probably for the last year and a half, where a lot of businesses are redefining their key activities. They know what the customer segment is, they know the value proposition, but how they're delivering it is changing. We're seeing this with higher ed right now. The pandemic disrupted the industry and the key activity in higher ed changed, and we've seen this shift to online courses. It's a whole other reason why it's brought us here today altogether. Another example that I see is key activities that have changed would be how restaurants in this time needed to switch from dine-in activities to delivery and carry-out orders. Even, a lot of restaurants that didn't even offer that, they switched it. Small boutique storefronts needed to offer online orders and curbside pickups. Okay, so now we finished this left side of the canvas. Nespresso has several key partners, farmers and manufacturers, several key resources that include their brand, their patents and quality coffee, and key activities that deliver the right side of the canvas with distribution, marketing, and production. So once you figure all of this out, you can make it to the third step. And a lot of people start with the third step, the third block, when they really need to be ending here. The third step is how to capture the value. You cannot capture something that has no value. So you define the value, you define the creation process and the delivery, and then it's time to think about how to monetize it, but we have to think about costs. A lot of people neglect the cost structure. They start producing the easiest way to get into the business. However, they don't invest enough time in identifying costs that are necessary for their key activities, their key resources, and their partners. So defining your cost structure, embedding that process, you're working towards profit maximization. And we know profit maximization means maximizing your revenue, minimizing your costs. In my experience, a lot of business owners focus on maximizing revenue, but they don't focus on minimizing or even acknowledging their costs. Maximizing revenue only, this is a common misconception, especially for startups. Even investors will push this concept. It's not sustainable. This is one reason why we see startups and firms fizzle quickly, because in my experience, everyone is pushing for that unicorn. Sorry, guys. Okay, the costs are an outcome of your key partners, key activities, and key resources. The business model canvas, it uses a broad range of cost-driven and value-driven models. And if you know your customer segment, you can decide if you're going to be value-driven or low cost. If you make it to Dublin one day, and I hope you do, or Europe, or if you're just interested in airlines, you'll hear about Ryanair. This is the model airline for discount airline travel. They realize that their customer segment does not care about thrills and frills. They just want to get to the next place as cheaply as possible. Ryanair said they're going to do a low-cost airline model, but be the best low-cost airline model. That required them first to identify their customer segment. Their customer segment does not want first class, therefore their planes do not want first class travelers, and they do not have a first class cabin. They want customers to get from A to B the cheapest way possible, but not necessarily the fastest way. So I don't know how much you know about Ryanair, but they don't typically fly to main airports. They realize that their customer segment just does not care about that. And knowing that impacts your cost structure. But what's really cool about Ryanair is that they didn't launch as a low-cost model. Competition from Aer Lingus and BA in the 90s forced them to redefine their business model. Now they're ranked #1 in Europe for on-time performance. So don't confuse low cost always with the lowest value. So on the other side of the low cost structure is the high value end. When I buy Nespresso, they're sold in these sleeves of 10 capsules. They're about $10 a sleeve, and I am a 3-cup-a-day person on a good day. I could get that at a fraction with other coffee, but Nespresso knows their market. And once that capsule is too cheap, they could lose their elegance and their value proposition. And remember that Nespresso wants you to think that you're this guy, George Clooney, sophisticated and elegant. Okay, so now we'll do what everyone loves to do and think about how much money we're going to make. If I'm providing this amazing value proposition to my customers, how can I capture some of that value? I'm providing a service. I need to be rewarded for that service. So what's the best way to set up my value capture in a specific revenue stream? So we'll take a look at a couple examples. Nespresso uses a repetitive stream to sell their capsules and a transactional stream for a one-time sale of their machines. Another revenue stream that's working well, just like we're all here today, is Zoom. It's their freemium stream. So if you have access to this free service, and then you have the option to upgrade to a paid service as well. MailChimp, I don't know how many of you use MailChimp, but they saw an enormous success in launching their freemium plan. A year later, they reported 150% increase in paying customers due to drastically lower costs of their cost of customer acquisition. Since customers saw the value right away, they began to rely on the product as their business grew. And then back to Nespresso here. They'll give you a machine for free. I can remember buying a ton of capsules once. They gave you the machine for free because their main revenue stream are in the capsules. Remember, key resources are protected by the IP of the capsules, so that's what they're invested in. And with subscription revenue streams, the marginal cost of production is low, so adding one more customer is low. Therefore, this model will need as many customers as possible for as long as possible. And now subscription streams, they're so popular. I see a lot of businesses switch to this revenue stream, but it's not necessarily the best for everyone. Something to keep in mind once you get here, the business model could change from your initial thoughts. For example, that means you might have to go back and redefine your customer segment because the customer is no longer the user. So it gets you thinking about different market segments as well. And I love this because to me, it's just a beautiful iteration of entrepreneurship. So now with markets and recessions, you want to get customers in to utilize your product or service. Then you can upsell them on additional things. Just like how we are using Zoom, they took advantage of the recession. Other industries I see in this revenue stream is, like I said, higher ed. They're increasing the amount of outreach programs to raise awareness of the products. Canvas, the learning management system, they recognize this increase in online education. They offer the platform for free. They offer it for free to capture the shift to online education. And as education and knowledge-based startups scale up, they hope to gain that revenue sharing with scaling. Google now is offering their Grow with Google initiative, and it's planned to, I think, disrupt the current higher ed system and the traditional career path to help accelerate economic recovery. The value proposition is to bridge any skills and qualification gaps to help job seekers capitalize on high pay and high growth fields. And Google secured over 100 key partnerships in doing this. But on a personal note, I just want to point out, because I miss it so much, that my home is there, that glass building, and Google was my neighbor in my backyard. So I'm really missing Dublin. Oh, okay. There's no way I could leave here without this example of my school, Trinity College Dublin. The business school developed dynamic key partnerships with academics, business leaders, industry experts, public partners to deliver this free online workshop. It's being offered to only local Irish businesses, which I love that part of the value proposition, to help develop innovative solutions to reimagine their business model in this new world that we're in. So during downturns, people are reluctant to spend, and you have to think about how to send the signal of quality. So the freemium model could be a good revenue stream today. I don't know if you're aware of this, but together, in a nutshell, we completed the business model canvas, and we walked through some stories with some examples like Nespresso and their business model. But before I leave and stop for today, open it up for discussion, I want to tell you that we talked about this from a business entrepreneurial standpoint. If you have an organization, which is anything where a group of people are working together, we could sit down together, get the organization thinking about the business and work through a business model canvas, because really it's about what you're creating, what you're delivering, and what you're capturing. And every organization is delivering something, capturing something, and creating something. So really the business model canvas is a great tool. It's applicable to many things in our life. I really love to do this work with my clients, and it's one of the services that I love doing. I want to reiterate that a lot of people focus on business plans. My view is you have to know this business model canvas in your business model. Then it can make writing that business plan much more fluid and easier. So a reminder for this Thursday, we have our final workshop of this series for the spring, how to identify your growth market. We have someone coming in from Google. You'll get to learn about resources to use as your business and startups consider growth strategies. So there are all of there's my contact information again. It's been so much fun sharing this with you. I'm excited to hear from you now about your business ideas and businesses, how it can apply to the business model canvas. I just want to say one more time that you are an organization. So it can be as simple as getting together, doing an exercise or a team building exercise. Reminder that I see a lot of people working in their business. My goal is to get you to work on your business. So thanks for your undivided attention.